I'm mainly here to discuss Maine. Perhaps that's all we'll discuss. Let me disclose up front that we're not planning on moving to Maine, so there will be no cliffhanger in that regard. Maine is a swift kick to the jugular of splendor. It's a feast for the eyes and for your appetite. They have tons of restaurants, breweries, hiking trails, and general tourist fodder. If I were a rich man, I'd own a cabin here. Prepare for some history, as they've got plenty of that. We learned that Paul Revere wasn't the sole writer that alerted colonists to approaching redcoats. History books may have lied to you, but I never will. It's time, once again, for Leon's Great Escape. We left Massachusetts with a major goal in mind. Since this trip was but a germ of an idea, reaching Maine and seeing Acadia was a linchpin for success. 274 miles were all that stood between us and that milestone. But we needed to eat, and the PBJs had gone stale. You'd be a great fool not to stop in Ogunquit to eat the buffalo-tossed, beer-battered cheese curds at Food for Thought. They also stock Austin Beer Company's Pale Ale, and it's refreshing. Then it was back on the road for another 200 miles or so. If I had any preconceptions that I had seen what America had to offer in terms of pristine nature, then I was sorely mistaken. Acadia National Park in Maine takes the proverbial cake. It's microphone drop-in time. Jaw, meet floor. Our stay at Narrows 2 Camping Resort was expensive. It was another $80 per night kind of joint. But that's the price you pay to be up here during this time of year. It's gorgeous. If you're here when it's cold, then you're nuts. You must, and I mean must, drive the scenic route up to the top of Cadillac Mountain and take in the quaint and picturesque Bar Harbor. Then, wet your whistle at the Fogtown Brewing Company in nearby Ellsworth. Bar Harbor is the rule, not the exception, for lobster in Maine. The Travel and Lobster is mouth-watering. Go here if you can. I'm not suggesting that you sell your kidneys or anything like that, but you do have two. Anywho, go to the Travel and Lobster. Another rule, which we didn't know until we got to Maine, is that they make everything with wild blueberries. Candace bought some local blueberry herbal tea at the Bar Harbor Tea Company. This is one of the many shops that you'll find and eateries that are on the main street in the harbor. Portland, Maine is a foodie mecca. Bon Appetit magazine named Portland the City of the Year in 2018, and all they do is gossip about food, so they really must know what they're talking about. A bonus of Portland is that it's half the cost of Acadia. Here you'll pay about $45 a night. We stayed at Wadsworth Springs Campground. We had thought that Pepper would enjoy the duck tour in Portland after we passed it on the street. And she did enjoy it as a place to take a nap. We learned some things at least and got a chance to get out on the water. This is, well, maybe I'll just read from their website. As you twist and turn through the old port aboard Maine's famous modern land and sea vehicle, or Duck, we'll tell you about the legends and lore that have shaped Portland into the most historical city in the nation. Learn about places to visit of interest and many little-known facts about the city, including its nickname, the Phoenix. The city's nickname, the Phoenix, is there because the place burned down 3 times. But each time it was rebuilt. Portland's no flash in the pan, and I'm glad that they didn't throw in the towel. How fat would you like to be? The Holy Donut has a mission from God, and that mission is to make you pudgy. Some folks cringe when they hear the word moist. Moist. But moist is the correct way to describe these food coma-inducing delectables. Their not-so-secret ingredient is the inclusion of Maine potatoes, which give them their signature density and moistness. Haven't got your fill of carbs yet? The fresh-made pretzels at Liquid Riot are savory pillows of Maillard heaven. They've got nearly any liquid that you want to pair with that because they manufacture them on site. Yes, they are a restaurant, brewery, and distillery. Talk about being able to walk and chew gum. I should probably leave the laureates to explain the bliss that is Street and Company. It's a regular tearjerker. If you want a hot date night, then go there. If you want to be the only table with a high chair and an order of milk with a straw, then you'd be us. Maine has over 90 breweries. I'm a fan of Allagash, and it turns out that Los Angeles is where they sell 12 to 15% of their product. Angelinos love Allagash White. Visit their tap room here, and you won't be disappointed. There is also an Airstream food truck parked out front that will prepare lobster rolls for you done 3 ways. Delicious. You can even walk to a few other breweries that are also in the area. You can make a day of it. We only had time to hit up Allagash and then Definitive Brewing Company, which is located across the street from Allagash. No complaints about them. Try their Kolsch. The High Roller Lobster Company was established in 2015 as a food cart, and they have blossomed since. Fresh Maine lobster and crab on brioche rolls baked daily from Southside Bakery. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a fraud. He embellished about Paul Revere. Longfellow lived in Portland, Maine, and he's one of the country's most famous poets. He wrote the poem, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man now is alive, and so it goes. The thing is that Paul wasn't the successful writer of that night. Paul did set out to warn us about the British invasion, but he was captured early on. Lucky for America, he wasn't alone. But he was the only writer to be immortalized. Longfellow noted that the poem wasn't about historical accuracy, but instead a dramatization of patriotism. We're on to New Hampshire next. Our aunt lives there, so we've got some catching up to do. We've also got to figure out where to live, because this motorhome thing is unpleasant at times. It also has moments that we'll treasure forever and ever, but the unpleasant ones are ever present. Plus, we have an allocated budget that is engulfed in flames, and unlike the Phoenix, it will not be reborn. Cross-country RVing is twice as expensive and emotionally draining as we thought it would be. Our desire for nomadic wandering has waned. There is something to be said for familiarity. Our sampler platter of U.S. cities has refined our palates and sharpened our focus on where we'd like to raise our family. Stay tuned if you'd like to see how this whole rigmarole wraps up. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Or share it with someone that you know that would enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in.